This conference will now be recorded.
Good morning. That is our cue that it is approximately 9 o'clock. I am going to call the Dealer Practices Committee meeting to order. My name is Ron Cody, and Alice, if you would please read the roll.
Ron Cody.
Here.
Steve Farmer.
Here.
Michael Bohr. Liza Borchers. Gardner Britt.
Here.
Bob Fisher.
Here.
Randy Harris.
Here.
Chris Mayer.
Here.
Jeff Malloy.
Here.
Mark Riblett.
Here.
Senior Sagafi.
Here.
Andrew Wiley.
I'm here.
Okay, Ron, you have a quorum.
Thank you, Alice. I really appreciate it. I know this is a little bit different for everybody since we are doing this via telephone. I want to remind everybody that public comment will be taken for each agenda item. You'll be given an opportunity to speak not only in the committee meeting, but is also in the full board, and we'll explain that as we go on. As I call each item, you'll be given a chance to speak. A summary is in the book from the last meeting, which occurred on March the 8th. If there's no objections, I'm going to go ahead and assume that summary is approved. There is also in your book an update from the last board meeting, and please take a look at that if you haven't already. I do not have any old business on the agenda. Is there any old business from the floor? Okay, that will take us to new business, and we'll go by the agenda, each tab in our books. And again, please keep your phones muted until it is your opportunity to speak. The very first tab in the book is tab 1. It's Victor Carter, 301 Auto Sales and Service. Victor Lynn Carter. Is there anybody in attendance to speak on this topic?
I'm here.
Okay. Who is that, Mr. Carter?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Mr. Carter, we're going to go ahead and read the case, and then you'll be given an opportunity to speak.
Okay, sir.
All right, William, if you could read the case, please.
Yes, good morning, everybody. 301 Auto Sales and Service and Victor L. Carter. On December 10th, 2020, an informal fact-finding conference was conducted to address the alleged violations of Virginia Code Sections 46.2-1529 and 46.2-1575, number 2. Based on the information provided at the conference, the hearing officer recommended assessing a civil penalty of $500 and a satisfactory inspection.
Okay. Mr. Carter, if you would like to speak to this case, we would appreciate it.
I mean, I've already told them everything that happened. It's, we've already discussed it. Whatever they find to do with me, I'm accepting.
So as I understand the case, sir, the issue is records being available during an inspection. I think there were a couple occurrences. The latest one obviously occurred last year. I think it was last year, and that you admitted that the records were not available for inspection. You originally, I think, had a civil penalty of $250, and then I think in the hearing, well, was it raised to $500?
Well, they never said, but I mean, they never said it would be raised to. But I heard anyway. The
recommendation from the hearing officer, as I see it in here, because of the number of issues, 1529 is the statute which says that records were not available, and then 1575 is an additional $250 because you were warned on several occasions of this issue. Did you have any other comments?
No, sir.
Okay. Any discussion by the committee members?
I'll make a
Recommendation, we approve a hearing officer's recommendation of $500 penalty.
Is that Mr. Farmer?
Yes, that's right.
Okay.
I'll second.
And who is that?
Fisher.
Rob Fisher seconds it. So there's a motion to go ahead and accept the hearing officer's recommendation, which is a $500 civil penalty, and a satisfactory inspection is also required. We'll go ahead and take a vote then, since we have a second. Alice, if we could take a vote, please.
Okay. Ron Cody,
Yes, aye.
Steve Farmer,
Aye.
Gardner Britt,
Aye.
Rob Fisher,
Aye.
Randy Harris,
Aye.
Chris Mayer,
Aye.
Jeff Malloy,
Aye.
Mark Riblett,
Aye.
Senior Sagafi,
Aye.
and Andrew Wiley.
Aye.
Okay, it's passed.
Okay, motion carries for a $500 civil penalty, and satisfactory inspection is also required. And Mr. Carter, if you would like, you'll also be given a chance to speak in the full board meeting following all the committee meetings this morning. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Tab 2 is Abrams Autos, Mildred Bruce. Is there anybody on the line to speak to Abrams Autos, Mildred Bruce? Okay, William, if you would go ahead and read tab 2, and then I will ask again.
Okay. Okay, tab 2, Abrams Autos and Mildred Bruce. On February 23rd, 2021, an informal fact-finding conference was conducted to address the alleged violations of Virginia Code sections 46.2-1529, 46.2-1537, 46.2-1539, and 46.2-1575, number 2. Based on the information provided at the conference, the hearing officer recommended assessing a civil penalty of $4,750 and revocation of all licenses and certificates.
Okay, so $4,750 civil penalty and revocation of all licenses. Is there anybody on the line to speak to tab 2, Abrams Autos?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, and who is this? Who is speaking, please?
I'm sorry, I didn't understand what you said for me to do.
Oh, okay, is this Miss Bruce?
I'm sorry?
Can everybody hear me?
Yes.
I can hear you loud and
Yes, Ron.
clear, Ron.
Yeah, I hear you, Ron.
Okay.
Ron, that is Ms. Bruce. That is Ms. Bruce.
Okay.
Yes.
Miss Bruce, would you like to speak about your situation to the board?
Yes.
Okay, you are given the floor to go ahead and do so.
All right, fine. Thank you.
Thank you.
During the year, starting along about April, I had a series of illnesses which interfered with my ability to keep the records and everything straight. I was in the hospital 3 times. Last one with a broken hip, unable to drive, unable to get back and forth, so that I had to depend on others to help and that sort of thing. And so I was not able to keep everything up to date. So I was, with the visits that came by, there were a lot of records that were not fully up to date. There were a number of other things such along that line that were a problem, incomplete and missing dealer records. They weren't missing as such. I have worked since I've been okay, which is about 2 or 3 weeks, The last thing I had was a broken hip. I couldn't drive. I couldn't get around, but I've been back for about two weeks actually. And so I had been working all sorts of hours to try to get everything straight. The next one was an unlicensed salesperson. The person in that is being referred to is my partner. Somebody had marked his name off of our information from the state. That I don't know who did that. It's not correct. He and I are the co-owners of the business. And I looked up what makes a salesperson. He does not speak English very clearly, and so we have not been able to get a sales license for him. But the description of the person just says that a person. It doesn't mention the training and that sort of thing. It just the description of what a salesperson is fits him. Or doesn't fit him. He does not get a salary. He is not paid for the cars that he sells. There's no way that I could sell the cars without his help, because he knows the business, so he knows the cars so well. He's a mechanic, an outstanding mechanic. And so I didn't feel that he fit that description of the salesperson, and therefore should not be penalized for having helped with the sale of cars. He seldom sells a car by himself. That's something that we do together. We discuss price. He doesn't like what I'm saying. I don't know what he thinks I'm saying wrong, but anyway. So I feel that that's stretching it a little bit to have a $500 penalty for an unlicensed salesperson. And then the next thing is, they said that I had been warned about this. This was not true, and we didn't know anything about it until a neighbor, a woman who worked for another business, said something to me about it, and we had tried to abide by it. And they keep referring to the fact that we don't live up to what we were warned about, but we have lived up to that. And so there's so much information on this situation that I don't know how much you need to know, so you may certainly ask questions. And let's see, the missing documentation of safety inspection. We have every car inspected. Sometimes it doesn't get done until like the day after the business is taken care of. We keep the car, get it inspected, do any other last minute things that need to be done. So we do that. One of the problems we've had is that when I was not here, because of all this sickness that I've had over a 6 months period, when I was not here, we would put the inspection papers in a folder, and then when I came in, I put those with the correct folder and so forth. We have found several from the inspection station that we normally use that do not match anything. And I can tell you that I have spent hours trying to get that done. I recently found 3 more that she had put on the list of inspections that had not been done. They had been done. We had the inspection paper, but we were just having great difficulty matching them with the information that we had about the purchaser and so forth. But I'm still working on that, and hopefully we'll have a lot more of them matched. But I've been over it so many times, I almost know it by heart. But so I don't really know that how many more we'll be able to match. And it makes it sound like I did all this and that got behind on things and did all this on purpose. I don't know why I would do that. It said just I had been warned several times, and then I might be in the hospital. I just feel like that there are extenuating circumstances behind my being behind and other things, and that someone should pay attention to that, and that I should not receive such a strict penalty for having had difficulties because of health. I'm much better now. I'm driving now. I still need some help walking, but things are much better, and I'm catching up with some of the things I'm behind on. I'm still catching up from 2020 and trying to get started on 2021. So I don't know what other things you would like to ask or have more information about.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. So a couple questions. My first question really is, the violations were originally found in January of 2020. So well over a year ago, and they were found as a result of you failing a satisfactory inspection requirement for not adhering to business hours in 2019. So this has actually been going on, or at least the issues with the business have been going on for well over a year.
Well, if you look at the timing, then you'll see though that the illnesses that I've had and the inability to, first of all, I had switched over to 2020 and had all of that going, and had done a lot with the documentation and things of that sort. Then began the series of hospitalizations and sicknesses, and COVID quarantined for 3 weeks. Not quarantined, but isolated. That's a little different, but it is being by yourself for 3 weeks and taking care of yourself. So that I feel that all of these interruptions and things of this sort just made it much more difficult to get everything done as far as the paperwork is concerned. I realize it's behind, and I realize that it's not quite what I'd like for it to be, but I do feel that my physical circumstances have interfered with that severely and made it difficult for me to do that.
Okay. And again, my only concern is that these issues came up in 2019. They were visible in an inspection in January of 2020, and then they were visible again in another inspection 8 months later in September of 2020. So this is an elongated timeline is my biggest concern. And I don't mean that to beat up on you, Ms. Bruce, but I just don't know that you have the staffing as well to maintain this business.
Well, we are staff limited. I am the dealer, and I do all of the office work, paperwork, that sort of thing. We have had people come in and help us, particularly when I was out for an extended period. One of them is a very experienced person, but she's experienced from a long time back and doesn't always use the most up-to-date methods. I noticed that one of the things they said was that instead of the information from instead of the inspection, I have a hard time remembering that word. I don't know why, but that instead that a note had been written saying that the car had not been inspected and the buyer understood and so forth and so on. I don't do that. She did that with 2 or 3 customers because that's what she had been used to doing. And then I found out that that was not acceptable, and so I don't do that. But you appreciate her help in many ways, but sometimes people use methods that are no longer in force.
Okay.
I'm just trying to say to you that I'm not a bad record keeper, that I do worry about that and try to be sure that I have everything, but that this has been the most difficult 6 weeks of 6 months of my life in terms of physical things. I never had that kind of problem before, and it was just one thing after another, and I'm still working on getting 2020 totally straight, but before I put the records away, and as well as getting started with 2021.
Okay. Are there other questions?
Ron, I've got questions.
Okay.
Miss Bruce, this is Chris. When is the last time that you took the dealer operator class as the dealer operator?
I missed my during the time I was sick. I missed it, and I took it at Fredericksburg. They found a one space available for me, and the date is on here somewhere, and I don't remember exactly. It was right after.
So, Miss Bruce, you've taken the class, or you haven't taken the class? You're on schedule to take the class? Is that what you're telling me?
It was just this past summer. Yes, sir.
So you took the class this past summer?
Yes. Actually, it might have been September. It was along toward the end of the summer that I took it.
You had mentioned. I'm sorry, ma'am. You had mentioned your business partner helps you with the process of selling cars, and he is an unlicensed individual. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Is there any reason you can't? Is there any reason you can't get him licensed and get him through that class too? So you have two people that know the bottom line of what's to be done day to day in the operation?
I'm sorry, I missed the intent of your question. Can you say that again?
The intent of my question was to ask you why your business partner is not licensed and co-capable of helping you run the dealership from day to day.
Right. He has a language difficulty with reading and writing English, and is not at the level that he can handle that independently. And so he has not been able to take. He's been offered. Mr. Childress offered that, and we're working on this, but we're not there yet. I'm an old educator, and aware of what's involved. And
I understand, Ms. Bruce. I'm greatly concerned about your ability to run the operation from day to day.
Yeah.
And it's not that I don't want to try to figure out a way to get you to do it, but it seems that the board has given you multiple opportunities to do it, and it hasn't been getting done. So unless you had a plan that would involve somebody helping you run the place from a day-to-day operation so that your health and things you've dealt with, which have been tough, would not interfere with the day-to-day operations. So can you come up with a plan for that, or are you kind of stuck between, your partner not communicating well and not being able to sell and or get licensed and all the weights on your shoulders?
After we received the letter about the a salesperson thing, we did work with a young man who had been interested in the cars and coming over and doing all sorts of things with Ibrahim is my partner's name, being interested in all sorts of things about cars. And so we sent him to get the salesman's license. I helped him with the, answering questions and things of that sort, and he did well. But right after that, his father's from New York. His father came down and he went back to New York and stayed several weeks with the thought that he might just move there. And we haven't settled anything with him, but he is back now. And so we're trying to work out something that will be satisfactory where he can help with the situation here. And that will be a big help because he will be trained as a salesman, but he's also very good with computer things of that sort that would make him a good help in the office. Somebody, Miss Garrett and uh, someone else came by one day when I was not here and met him, and were under the impression that I had hired him to run to run things, which was not true. We have not made any arrangement like that, but we are working with him to help him be trained in what we do, and then we'll work that part out. And I think I think it can be very satisfactory. He got his salesman's license. He's ready for that. Just needs some actual practice time, and then we'll work out some sort of arrangement for him to be here on a probably a pretty much full-time basis, because he'll be doing some selling and some office work.
Ms. Bruce, I have one more question for you. How many vehicles have you sold last year in 2020? How many vehicles did you sell, and how many have you sold so far this year?
The information looks like I don't sit down and count them, and I didn't, but 41 last year. We were last year was a slower year than previous years. Most of the time the first 2 years has been in the 50s, but 41 last year. And so far this year, we've sold, it's right over here next to me in the filing cabinet, but I'm guessing about 10. Would you say that's right? Ibrahim is here and listening in, and and I'm pretty sure it's somewhere in the neighborhood of 10 so far.
And,
Okay,
and Ms. Brooks, you pretty much do all of those sales. That's your responsibility as the only salesperson?
I do most of all of the paperwork, all of the titling, things of that sort. And if there are temporary tags, I do those and that sort of thing. I wouldn't say that I do all of the sales work. If Abraham discusses what the problems might be with the car, that sort of thing, and works with the customers while it gets those improved. He doesn't think I'm saying it very well. Would you like to speak to him?
No, that's okay. Hey, William, can I ask a procedural question? If she failed the inspection in January and subsequent inspections, why did we allow her to operate? Because of COVID?
No, Mrs. Bruce is one of the reasons why we changed our process with the inspections. Remember, I think later on we decided to, in the process, somebody had 90 days to have a satisfactory inspection. We decided at the 60-day mark, we'll go ahead and do the inspection to give them a chance to come into compliance. Mrs. Bruce, on the first time around, she came to us after her time had expired. There was nothing for us to go back to say that she had met the requirements. So this is the reason why we changed our process, to give the dealerships a chance to correct the problems that have been identified and hopefully do it within the allotted time period.
I'm not sure. Okay, but she failed the inspection in January.
Right, and because she failed the inspection, but it was beyond the 90 days. There was nothing to go back to look at because she was suspended. Remember, when you failed the inspection, you're suspended. So there was no selling taking place, supposed to go back to look at to see if she had come into compliance. So when we put this process in place, two board meetings ago, we decided that when somebody had a 90-day inspection in the future, that at day 60 or day 61, that the board will go out and inspect them at that point. So if we did find something wrong, they will have an opportunity to correct it. And if we went back several times, we will only go back to inspect the things that they had failed on. And it just came about because of her situation.
Yeah, no, just a little concerning because of the grievous violations in January, and then she goes 8 months later, and it gets worse in that August-September time frame, and she's still selling vehicles.
Well,
can I chime in?
Mm-hmm. Yes, ma'am.
The first illness that I had was late spring. And I was in the hospital several days. I had a severe infection. Had no idea what it was. It was making me feel so bad. But anyway, it was a severe infection. And he said, the doctor said, I think we need to keep you. And they did. And even then afterwards, for a few days, I wasn't up to par. But I went back. And then I began to feel bad again. I went in for a check, and it was COVID. And I was out for 3 weeks. The day that I came back to work was one of the days that the inspection group came. And I walked in not knowing that they were going to be here, not having everything either with me or knowing exactly what it was going to be like in the file, because the lady that I mentioned had been helping out some during that period of time. And neatness is not high on her list. And so Ms. Garrett asked me, for example, if I had my dealer's inventory. And by the time, and this was toward the end of the time they had here, by the time that she asked me that question, I was exhausted. It was the first day I had been back at work for 3 weeks. Everything was unexpected. I wasn't sure. So I just shook my head. And I realized later that was the wrong thing to do. I did not answer her question, and no reason for her to interpret my shaking my head the way I meant it to be, that I just was too worn out and I was, it had just been too difficult. So I got all of that taken care of. And then lo and behold, coming home from the grocery store one evening, I picked up something, and I was living in an apartment that's in a cul-de-sac, and I fell, and when I fell, bad news. So anyway, and it was. The hip bone was broken. I was out for 4 months. Not out of the shop for 4 months, but out of commission as far as driving and all that. As soon as I was able, I did get rides to work and home again in the afternoon when I was working, but I was not that regular, especially not at the beginning. And so this tends to throw me behind. And the young man who had the salesperson's license was here part of the time, and so we were able to sort of keep things going. Then when I got to the point where I could maneuver and do all right, I got rides to work, and was able to keep an eye on things better. And as I said, I haven't had a day off. I usually take time off, even Sundays. I haven't taken a day off from work for 2 or 3 months now, really trying to get everything caught up. I like things as neat and orderly and in place as you do. I want to be able to walk over and put my hand on something and know exactly what it is and where it is. And I just haven't been able to get to that point this year because of all the time that I've been out. So now, not this year, but I didn't finish up last year the way I should have. So now I'm busy with getting 2001 and keeping it straight as I go along, at the same time that I'm still finishing 2020. And anyway, I'm not trying to sound pitiful, but I do believe I wasn't like this in 2019. And I do believe that a couple more months and I'm going to be in great shape.
And Mr. Cody, if you don't mind, Lisa McNelson, who's over the field representatives, who is Janet Garrett's direct supervisor, she can add more information if you still would like to hear it.
It's sure, if you think it's instrumental, sure.
Okay,
Lisa?
you asked why her suspension wasn't in place after she failed the inspection. It's because Ms. Bruce came to this office after she did not pay her civil penalty of $1,000, and we sent her the debt set off. She came into the office and she spoke with me, Ms. Peggy Bailey, and Janet Garrett happened to be there that day as well. And she said the same thing pretty much as she's saying now, that she will get everything together. As we know, this was really her first inspection because prior to that, she had failed inspections because of 1533. violations. So because she had never really had an inspection, Peggy chose to lift the suspension, let her pay the $1,000, and we were supposed to get back with her without thinking about 3 months, but then everything with COVID hit. So that's why her suspension was lifted at that time, so she can get everything together and we would have something to actually do an inspection on when we return to do the inspection.
Okay. Other questions for Ms. Bruce? No other questions? Ms. Bruce, I will just say and comment. I mean, this is a little challenging for me because I view our responsibility of the board twofold. One is to help dealers be successful and to educate them. And quite candidly, your organization's really not set up to be successful. You really don't have what you need to run a successful automobile business in the way of staffing. And you've even, I don't want to say,
I'm sorry,
but I'll say admitted to the fact that the one other person you have helping you is not a licensed salesperson, and he's really selling vehicles. The second fold responsibility we have is to the consumers of Virginia. And honestly, with the violations and inspections and the broken procedures and the other things that have gone on over the last over a year, we're not protecting the consumers of Virginia either. So this is a very difficult case for me. I understand what you're saying, but I must say to you that you're not set up to be successful. In my 8 years on the board, none of these work out until you get the staff you require to run the business. And that's what makes this very difficult for me. Any other comments from the board? If there's no other comments, can I get a motion?
I mean, I'd like to speak for just a minute, Ron, if we could. I can say that I do recall Mildred coming through the dealer operator class. I do remember her being very trying to do the right thing. I think you're very correct in your assessment that she doesn't have the tools in place to be able to protect the consumers in the state of Virginia at this point, or even run a business that's going to be compliant with the ability to do so. I don't know if there's any way that we could slow down the process. And I know we've already done this once, but give her, 90 days to come up with somebody who would be classified as co-dealer operator or dealer operator. She could be the owner. And that person could be responsible for the day-to-day operations without completely closing down her business. And I also think we should greatly work on the penalties. I don't think that she's intentionally gone out here to harm or hurt somebody. I think she's trying. And my heart is to try to give people the opportunity to make it in business, not shut them down. So I would think that we want to greatly reduce the fine to get a point across to Miss Bruce. And I think we would also want to give her a mild extension that would allow her to get somebody in there to help her that would not be dependent on her getting to work or back and forth to work. So, I mean, if that's something that the rest of the board agrees with, then we can talk about it. But I don't see an intent in her heart to harm anybody at this point. And I don't think we have any other complaints for consumers, or we would see them by now where they've done something wrong to a consumer. So can I ask for some opinions from the rest of the board on this, or ask somebody else to speak up in regards to this, or am I the only person on this bandwagon?
And don't forget, this is still in committee, so it's going to be for those in the committee, really, as far as the vote is concerned. Go ahead. Understand, sir. Yes.
Chris, one thing is that part of the investigation took place because there were complaints by consumers. So there were some complaints. As far as not acting on this today and taking her licenses, I mean, I guess procedurally we could table it and give her 2 months to come back with a business plan. But short of that, we really need to vote on what's in front of us. So if you really feel like you wanted to, you being the committee, give Ms. Bruce a chance, one final chance, you could ask her to come back to our meeting in May, present her business plan as to what she intends to do to fix all of these issues, and then we can vote on it then. I assume, I don't see, where is Christian? I assume we're good procedurally on this, that if we wanted to, we could table it and give her 60 days to come up with a plan.
Yes, you could, I mean, just like we've done in fund cases, you can table it and then just reassess at that point. We've done it, yeah, it's been done before in other contexts.
Right, and Christian, and Chris, the only reason I even suggest that is I do agree that her intent is not to harm the consumer. However, with these issues that persist in her business, she is harming the consumer. And therefore, she is responsible at a minimum to come back with a plan that says, listen, we're comfortable that we can fulfill our commitment to the consumers and to the dealers of Virginia based on her new plan.
I would be in total agreement with that, Ron. I think that'd be quite gracious from your behalf and the rest of the members on the committee. So I would be in favor of that.
Is there any other discussion from committee members?
I would tend to agree. Do we, at some point, have a fine here at this point, or do we back it all up and just table? And then what is the criteria for a business plan, and what do we say, okay, that's acceptable in 60 days from now?
I think, Rob, I think she could work with VIADA to do that and come up with something and get some assistance from any number of people to include the dealer board. I don't think we need to lay that criteria out. I also don't believe we can do part of the case and talk about fines. I think we just need to table the whole case until the May meeting, if that's in fact what the committee would like to do.
Mr. Chairman, Rick Holcomb, just one suggestion on that. And again, this is a decision the dealers should be making. But you may want to give her 45 days to come up with a plan and submit it 15 days prior to the next meeting, because I'm not sure if she brings it the day of the meeting, this board's going to have sufficient opportunity to review it and conclude that she has set herself on a path towards success. So I would say she needs to put that plan together, submit it in time for the board to review it prior to the next board's meeting.
I think that's a good point. Can I, if there's no other discussion, can I get a motion?
I'll make the motion that we table this until the next board meeting so that Mrs. Bruce can come up with a business plan. It would be required that plan would be submitted 15 days prior to the board meeting, giving us an opportunity to review that plan prior to the board meeting. And if Ms. Bruce needs help through the VIDA, I'm sure that they will step in and help her. And I'm sure that everybody at the dealer board has offered to help Ms. Bruce as well and would continue. So that would be my motion, sir.
I'll second that.
Okay, second. So the motion to table with Ms. Bruce being responsible to come up with a business plan in about 45 days, submitted to the board no later than 15 days before the next meeting. Chris Mayer makes the motion. Rob Fisher seconds it. We'll go ahead and take a vote, Alice.
Ron Cody,
Yes. Aye.
Steve Farmer,
Aye.
Gardner Britt,
Aye.
Rob Fisher,
Aye.
Randy Harris,
Aye.
Chris Mayer,
Aye.
Jeff Malloy,
Aye.
Mark Reblett,
Aye.
Senior Sagapi,
Aye.
Andrew Wiley.
Aye.
Okay, motion carried.
Motion carries for a business plan submitted in about 45 days by Ms. Bruce to the dealer board at least 15 days prior to our next meeting. Ms. Bruce, you are free to stay on the line and or come back for the full board meeting, which will follow all the committee meetings as well. And we wish you the very best.
Mr. Cody, I have a question.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Where do I submit the plan?
I would work with VIDA and the dealer board, but you would submit the plan to the dealer board.
Okay, fine. I certainly will.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank all of those names I heard and all the ayes. And thank you very much. I do appreciate it. And I think you will be pleased with what you've done.
We are counting on it.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you. William?
Yeah, the question is a simple one. Upon receipt of the plan, is it just for dissemination to the committee members or to the entire board?
I would say the entire board, but
Okay.
the committee members will vote on it, and then it'll come up in the entire board as well.
That's fine.
Okay.
Okay, we got it.
Tab 3, Midtown Motors, John Forney. This is a formal hearing. We decided on this case, I think last year towards the end of the year, November-ish kind of time frame. This one has been going back and forth for quite a while. Is there anybody here to speak to tab 3? Anybody to speak to tab 3, Midtown Motors? Okay, William, if you could go ahead and read tab 3.
Okay, tab 3, Midtown Motors Incorporated and John Forney. Historical overview leading up to the formal hearing. On July 23rd, 2020, an informal fact-finding conference was conducted to address the alleged violations of Virginia Code Section 46.2-1550. Based on the information provided at the conference, the hearing officer recommended assessing a civil penalty of $250. Prior to the start of the September meeting, dealer practices meeting, and full board meetings, the board adopted a resolution per Mr. Forney's request to table his issue to the board to the November meeting due to unforeseen circumstances. At the November 9th, 2020 Dealer Practice Committee and full board meetings, the board adopted a resolution assessing a $250 civil penalty. On December 22nd, 2020, Mr. Forney appealed for a formal hearing. On January 28th, 2021, a formal hearing was conducted to address the alleged violations. Based on the information provided at the hearing officer recommended assessing a civil penalty of $500.
Thank you, William. I'm going to ask again, is there anybody on the lines to speak to Midtown Motors, John Forney?
Leave it on.
Okay. Discussion by committee? So this is one we talked about last year. This is a situation where a vehicle was used that had a dealer tag on it to potentially do some other errands or work at another facility that Mr. Forney owned. And we heard this case and made a decision. Then he appealed it, and the civil penalty was increased from $250 to $500.
No.
No? Yes? Okay.
No, visual.
Okay.
No, what I'm talking about. I'm talking about.
Miss
I know this.
Bruce, if you could mute your phone, we would greatly appreciate it.
I know.
Talking to you. Say hello.
I know.
Don't make us change our mind. All right, Chris.
Hey, Ron, I've got something to say. I originally had a little bit of digestion about this, but after further review, I think the best recommendation that I can give Mr. Forney is to register that vehicle correctly with a Virginia tag that is not an independent dealer tag, get insurance on it like I did, and run that for whatever he wants at that point. So I've changed my mind about trying to step out for the guy. He didn't show up. And so anyway, that's my agreement. I agree with the hearing officer's recommendation, and I will make that recommendation. Do we accept it?
Discussion?
I'll second.
Okay, so Chris Mayer makes a motion to accept the hearing officer's recommendation for a $500 civil penalty, and there is no satisfactory inspection required. Rob Fisher seconds that motion. Alice, will go ahead and take a vote.
Ron Cody,
Aye.
Steve Farmer,
Aye.
Gardner Britt,
Aye.
Rob Fisher,
Aye.
Randy Harris,
Aye.
Chris Mayer,
Aye.
Jeff Malloy,
Aye.
Mark Riblett,
Aye.
Senior Sagafi,
Aye.
Andrew Wiley.
Aye.
All right, motion carried.
Okay, motion carries for a $500 civil penalty. No other inspections required. That does it for tabs from the book. Is there any other new business from the floor? Hearing no new business from the floor, our next meeting is scheduled for May the 10th at 9 a.m. Dealer practices stands adjourned.
Okay, Mr. Slaughter. Okay, should we move on to the next committee? Come back to Mr. Slaughter. He's here, but I don't see him responding.
I'm got it. You ready?
Yes, we're ready for you, sir.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
All right, I'd like to call a dealer license committee. I'm sorry. I'd like to call a dealer license committee to order. Alice, can you call a roll?
Maurice Slaughter,
Here.
Ted Bailey,
Here.
Dan Bannister, Dan Bannister, Isaac Borchers, Gardner Britt,
Here.
David Duncan,
Here.
Rob Fisher,
Here.
Randy Harris,
Here.
Senior Sagafi,
I'm here.
Don Sullivan,
Here.
Andrew Wiley.
I'm here.
Okay, I received an email from Dan Bannister saying that he was having trouble calling in to resend the link. I sent him the link, and he still might be having trouble. So, all right, but you do have a quorum.
Can you hear me?
Thank you. Anyone that's here to speak? Hey. Anyone that's here to speak on the agenda will be given an opportunity to speak when that item comes up. I'd like to approve the January meeting minutes. Are there any objections for that? With no objections, those minutes are approved. Any old business on the floor? With no old business, I'd like to go to new business on the floor. There is no new business for the dealer license committee. So at this time, I'd like to move and say that next meeting will be May 10th and 2021, and we will be meeting again later this morning. Thank you.
Okay, advertising committee.
All right. Advertising committee come to order. Alice, call the roll, please.
David Duncan,
Yeah.
Ted Bailey,
There.
Dan Bannister,
Here.
Randy Harris,
Here.
Ron Cody,
Here.
Jeff Malloy, Jeff Malloy, Mark Riblett,
Here.
Maurice Slaughter,
Here.
Alice, I'm
Sullivan.
here. Sorry about that.
Okay, thank you. Don Sullivan,
Here.
Okay, you have a quorum.
Thank you, Alice. You should state that all on the agenda be given opportunity to speak when the agenda item comes up. Check to see if there's any public comments. So anyway, I'd like to approve the January meeting summary. If there are no objections, the January 2021 committee meeting summary will be approved. There are no tabs as far as anything on old business. Is there any old business from the floor? Hearing none, no tabs in the new business portion. Is there any new business from the floor? Hearing none, our next meeting will be Monday, May 10th, 2021. That is for the advertising committee.
Okay, so that's my cue that Transaction Recovery Fund is coming to order. Alice, would you call the roll, please?
Chris Mayer,
Here.
Jeff Malloy,
Here.
Dan Bannister,
Here.
Michael Bohr, Dennis Elmer, Steve Farmer,
Yeah.
Rob Fisher,
Here.
Ron Cody,
Here.
Mark Riblett,
Here.
Maurice Slaughter,
Here.
Don Sullivan,
Here.
Andrew Wiley.
Here.
Okay, you have a quorum.
Okay, wonderful. Public comments will be taken, but they will be limited to the items that are on the agenda, which there are none. So if somebody wants to speak up, let me know. I'd like to move that we approve the January 11th, 2021 meeting summary. If there's no objection, we'll call that approved. Under old business, do we have any old business from the floor? Under new business, do we have any new business from the floor? So I'd like to talk about something, since this is my committee and we've pretty much rushed through everything here. What are the possibilities of us getting back to in-person meetings? I think we're missing a substantial amount of communication between the dealer public and us as a dealer board. By doing the Zoom meetings, although I have to tell you they've been very successful, there's a lot to be said for getting in front of somebody and listening to what they have to say. So I'd like to open that up for discussion if anybody'd like to discuss that. I'm all ears and I'm all for it.
Chris, Rick Holcomb, as sort of the host of the board meetings and the committee meetings, we're not ready to have everyone back in that room. The social distancing guidelines are still in order. I think certainly the last time the governor talked about the COVID crises, he made some good statements, and that is positive cases are down, and certainly vaccinations are up. So we are moving towards where we need to be. Whether we're going to be there in 2 months, I don't know. I think maybe 4 months from now might be more realistic, but at this point, I'm, for the safety of my employees, I would not open room 702 to this size crowd, and I don't think we could guarantee the health and safety of our board members or our staff. So let's be positive. Let's think about 4 months from now, but I doubt very seriously that we'll be ready to go in May. But William, that's just my thoughts. Certainly you can find another location to have the meeting, but I just don't think that we're ready to get everyone back together.
I'm not going to add much more to it, Chairman Holcomb, other than the fact that as a state agency, we're definitely in compliance with what the governor's mandates and requirements are. And one of his requirements is still limitations on size of parties at indoor functions. So I'm going to maintain my job, and I'm going to follow my leader. So when he says we can do otherwise, we'll be happy to do such.
Okay, well, I guess that settles that. I just wanted to put it out there that was on my mind. I certainly miss in-person meetings with the dealers and being able to intervene with them one-on-one. So we'll look forward to some good news in 2 to 4 months, Mr. Commissioner, and thanks for your input on that. Okay, the next will be the scheduling of the May 10th, 2021 committee meeting. That will be our next meeting as a transaction recovery fund. And I can only hope that we don't have any additional claims at that point. So with that being said, we'll adjourn.
Thank you, Chris. William, do you need some time to ready the 3 items for votes?
No, sir. I'm ready.
Okay, well then I will call the full board to order.
Actually, if I could just, I'm sorry, Commissioner, I just need to jump in. I think the notice says 5 to 15 minutes after the last committee meeting. I think on the notice, just so we stay in compliance.
I'd say it's immediately following the transaction recovery fund is what I'm.
Okay, okay, I'm sorry. I thought I recalled it being 5 to 15 minutes after.
Well, let me ask staff. William, are we ready to start, or do we need to wait for notice for additional time?
No, I think with Mr. Parrish is saying was true in the past. We did change it to be immediately after or. So you can go either way. I'm ready. We're ready.
Okay. I'm looking at it now. You did add immediate to it, so that's fine. That's fine. I'm sorry. I recalled old school stuff.
No, thanks, Christian. Appreciate that point. Okay, well, we'll call the full board to order, and Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Ted Bailey.
Here.
Dan Bannister.
Here.
Michael Bohr. Liza Borges. Gardner Britt.
Here.
David Duncan.
Here.
Dennis Elmer. Steve Farmer.
Here.
Rob Fisher.
Here.
Randy Harris.
Here.
Ron Cody.
Here.
Chris Mayer.
Here.
Jeff Malloy.
Here.
Mark Riblett.
Here.
Senior Sagapi.
Here.
Maurice Slaughter.
Here.
Don Sullivan.
Here.
Andrew Wiley.
Here.
Rick Holcomb.
Here.
Okay, you have a quorum.
Okay, thank you. We will have public comment, and if you are scheduled to speak on a matter, you will be called upon once that matter is brought before the board. You have before you the minutes from our January 11th board meeting. Without objection, those minutes stand approved. We now take the reports from our statutory committees. First, Dealer Practices, Chairman Cody. We'll entertain your report at this point.
Commissioner Holcomb, the Dealer Practices Committee met earlier and a quorum was present. The committee approved a summary from the last meeting, and we actually discussed 3 different resolutions. Resolution 1, tab 1, was Victor Lynn Carter, 301 Auto Sales and Service, and Mr. Carter was present. William, if you could read tab 1.
William, I think you're on mute.
Thank you. 301 Auto Sales and Victor L. Carter. Whereas the board has reviewed and considered the facts and evidence in the report of an informal fact-finding conference as prepared by the hearing officer concerning 301 Auto Sales and Victor Carter for alleged violations of Virginia Code sections 46.2-1529 and 46.2-1575, number 2. Whereas based on due consideration, the board believes that the following actions should be taken against 301 Auto Sales and Victor Carter. 1, assess a civil penalty of $500, and 2, 301 Auto Sales dealership shall be inspected by a Motor Vehicle Dealer Board field representative by June 8th, 2021, and that inspection shall be satisfactory. And now, therefore, be it resolved that the board mandates that Victor Carter hereby be assessed a civil penalty of $500 and the 301 Auto Sales Dealership shall satisfactorily pass an inspection conducted by a Motor Vehicle Dealer Board field representative on or before June 8, 2021. Therefore, be it further resolved by the board that failure to comply with the board's mandates by the required dates will result in the suspension of all licenses, certificates issued by the board until such time the 301 Auto Sales Dealership and Victor Carter successfully comply with the board's mandates.
And Mr. Chairman, is that your motion?
It is, Commissioner.
Is there a second?
I'll second. This is Chris.
Okay, Chris seconds. I see Mr. Carter is still signed in, but he's got his mic off and his photo and his camera off. But he did, Mr. Chairman, I believe he did accept the recommendation or did accept the recommendation of the hearing officer. So let me ask one more time, Mr. Carter, if you are still with us, you have an opportunity to speak at this point. Okay, Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Ed Bailey,
Here.
No, I'm sorry. We're taking the vote, so either aye or nay.
I'm sorry. Aye.
Dan Bannister,
Aye.
Gardner Britt,
Aye.
David Duncan,
Aye.
Steve Farmer,
Aye.
Rob Fisher,
Aye.
Randy Harris,
Aye.
Ron Cody,
Aye.
Chris Mayer,
Aye.
Jeff Malloy,
Aye.
Mark Riblet,
Aye.
Senior Sagapi,
Hi, I see Mr. Cody's on the screen as Mark Sands, his name.
Yeah, that's only because my computer failed this morning, so I had to come into the office next door.
Oh, okay. I thought maybe for recording purposes. All
Maury
right.
Slaughter,
Aye.
John Sullivan,
Aye.
Andrew Wiley,
Aye.
Rick Holcomb.
Aye.
Okay, motion carried.
Okay, motion carries. Mr. Chairman, next matter.
Commissioner, tab 2, Mildred D. Bruce, Abraham's Autos. The committee decided to table that, giving Ms. Bruce the opportunity to build a business plan and submit it to dealer board in about 45 days and about 15 days prior to our next meeting.
Okay, Christian, since the committee tabled it, does the full board need to also vote on that?
Just from a timing standpoint for getting, I guess it would not be a bad idea to approve that as a full board.
Okay, then, Mr. Chairman, your motion is to table that matter with the business plan being presented back to the board as a whole 45 days from now, and then this matter would then be back on the agenda in May.
Yes,
so
Commissioner.
that's is there a second to that motion to table? Rob Fisher is seconding that. Madam Clerk, please call the roll, or please call for the vote.
Ed Bailey,
Aye.
Dan Bannister,
Aye.
Gardner Britt,
Aye.
David Duncan,
Aye.
Steve Farmer,
Aye.
Rob Fisher,
Aye.
Randy Harris,
Aye.
Ron Cody,
Aye.
Chris Mayer,
Aye.
Jeff Malloy,
Aye.
Mark Riblet,
Aye.
Senior Sagapi,
Aye.
Maurice Slaughter,
Aye.
Don Sullivan,
Aye.
Andrew Wiley,
Aye.
Rick Holcomb.
Aye, and I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman, before I announce the vote, I know Mrs. Bruce was on the line earlier and spoke extensively and seemed very satisfied with this outcome. But let me just ask if Mrs. Bruce is still on the line, if she has anything before we announce the vote. Does she have anything to add? Okay, Madam Clerk, please announce the vote.
Motion carried.
Okay, and Mr. Chairman, you have one more matter?
Yes, Commissioner. Tab 3, Midtown Motors, John Forney. Mr. Forney was not present at the time. William, if you could read tab 3.
Midtown Motors Incorporated and John Forney. Whereas based on the evidence and the report of an informal fact-finding conference as prepared by a hearing officer, the Motor Vehicle Dealer Board assessed a $250 civil penalty against Midtown Motors, John Forney. And whereas John Forney appealed the board's decision and requested a formal hearing that was conducted on January 28, 2021. And whereas the board has reviewed and considered the facts and evidence and the report of a formal hearing is prepared by the hearing officer concerning Midtown Motors and John Forney for alleged violation of Penal Code Section 4612-1550. And whereas based on due consideration, the board believes that the following action should be taken against Midtown Motors and John Forney. 1, assess a civil penalty of $500. And now, therefore, be it resolved that the board mandates that Midtown Motors and John Forney hereby be assessed a civil penalty of $500.
Okay, and Mr. Chairman, that is your motion?
It is, Commissioner.
Is there a second? Well, Rob Fisher, seconds. Discussion?
You want to see if Mr. Forney joined anywhere?
Is there anybody to speak on the Midtown Motors and John Forney issue? Okay, hearing none, Madam Clerk, please call the vote.
Ted Bailey?
Here.
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Dan Bannister?
Aye.
Gardner Britt?
Aye.
David Duncan?
Aye.
Steve Farmer?
Aye.
Rob Fisher?
Aye.
Randy Harris?
Aye.
Ron Cody?
Aye.
Chris Mayer?
Aye.
Jeff Malloy?
Aye.
Mark Riblett?
Aye.
Senior Sagapi?
Aye.
Maurice Slaughter?
Aye.
Don Sullivan?
Aye.
Andrew Wiley?
Aye.
Rick Holcomb?
Aye.
Okay. Motion carried.
Okay. Mr. Chairman, does that conclude your report?
It does, Commissioner, and we will meet again on May the 10th.
Hey, thank you, Ron. Okay, Licensing Committee, Chair Slaughter.
Could I ask William Childress a question, please?
I'm sorry, who's asking?
This is Don Sullivan.
Yes, Don.
Yeah, on Abraham's Auto, Mrs. Bruce, was she, I'm not clear, I just need to get some clarification. I'm not sure she was clear on the fact that she has to have a licensed salesperson to sell cars even moving forward, because she obviously was not clear on that. And prior even to today's date, and moving forward before her business plan is revealed, does she really understand that she's the only one that can sell cars at this dealership? I'm not really sure she is. And I'm just concerned about that. I just wondering if there was going to be something from the dealer board to make sure she understands that you know, her partner can't continue selling cars until in this business plan is revealed to us, and then you know, we have her review.
We made it very clear on numerous occasions, Mr. Sullivan, but I'm also confident now that BIADA will be stepping in to assist. She will also hear from them as well. We've told her about 5 or 6 times, so she's heard from us. She understands it. But I think with, let's say, BIADA stepping in, it'll become very clear to her. But we'll remind her.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Don. Chairman Slaughter, licensing committee.
Commissioner Holcomb, the Dental License Committee was called to order. We had a quorum. There was no old business. We approved the minutes from January meeting. No old business from the floor. No new business from the floor. So we're going to move to our next meeting, May 10th, 2021. Thank you, Commissioner.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Advertising committee, Chairman Duncan.
Mr. Chairman, we did have met this morning. We had a quorum. We did approve the meeting summary from the January meeting. We did not have any new business from the floor or any old business. So our next meeting is Monday, May 10th.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Transaction recovery, Chairman Meyer.
Yes, Mr. Commissioner, we met this morning. We had a quorum. We had approved the January 11th meeting summary. There was no old business. The only thing under new business that we discussed was the possibility of meeting again as a group, as a transaction recovery fund at the DMV in Richmond, and you were clear on your understanding of that, and I got it. So we'll hope that changes sometime soon and we all get back to normal. We had talked about the May 10th is the next meeting for the transaction recovery fund, and we adjourned. And there was no new business or old business other than that.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Okay, now we go to old business, salesperson's licensing update, Chair Cody.
William, you and I have talked extensively about this. We do not know of any issues relative to salesperson licensing. Volume has picked up a little bit. I know your staff has been out across the state quite extensively helping out as well with licensing. But as far as any other updates, unless we hear otherwise, we assume things are going well and we're still getting support from the Sterling Group.
And thank you, Mr. Chairman. And just for everyone's information, the old Sterling office, which is now being called Sterling Freecourt, we opened a brand new office less than a mile from there that's now being called Sterling Boulevard. But because of the demand, particularly with Real ID and some other driver services, we have decided to keep both Sterling offices open at least through this calendar year, if not longer. So certainly, William, the understanding that you and Tanya Blaine have will continue for as long as you need it. And Ron, I think you're absolutely right. If this was not working, I think we would have heard from someone on it. So I think that we're holding our own. And if you need more testing slots, William, just work that out with Tanya.
Commissioner, we really appreciate DMV's help.
You're certainly welcome. Okay, dealer portal update. William, you want to give us that update?
Yes, I will. And Mr. Cody, you can step in and help if you would like. The dealer portal, we're making some progress. We had a vendor discussion or a vendor, I guess, display on February 22nd for the most part. Participants included Lana Shelley, who was DMV CIO, Ron Cody was there, Rosie Turner from DMV, John Saul, who was my IT resource here at the dealer board, and myself. And the demonstration that the vendor gave, I'm gonna call the vendor E, because in the previous meetings we've had, we have not called any vendor out by their name. We've used them as vendor A through E, but this was vendor E. And they gave a demonstration, and the demonstration that they gave, I think all of those who viewed the demonstration gave a clear indication that the vendor is more than capable of producing a system that we could use. So that was the first thing. They had taken some time and learned some about business processes and developed a demonstration that included some of our business practices. So we're very confident that they will be able to do the job if they were able to get the contract from us. Also during that meeting, discussions were held like we did with the other vendors of information to provide to them. We answered a questionnaire on their behalf. They answered some business questions. How many dealerships do we deal with? How many sales licensed people do we have? Things of that nature, and we provide information to them. And this information that we're providing to them is to give them an idea so they can provide a quote, a pricing for us. So this is part of the pricing mechanism. And we should have that pricing mechanism from them hopefully within the next 10 days of what it will cost us to procure a system from them if we decide to move forward with them. Now, to remind the board, because of our position as far as being exempt from let's see, being exempt from state procurement requirements, we do not have to go through that process. We can go out on our own. But at the same time, the beauty in this case is that the vendors that we're looking at so far, they are all on state contract. They're all VETA approved, which means that we can do a contract with any of them at any time should we decide to do so. But we still have a ways to go with that. In addition to the meeting on February 22nd, on March the 4th, which is this last week, Lisa Magnelson, myself, and John Saul viewed another portion of the system they were showing us. And this portion was just for the inspection piece, mostly for the field reps that we looked at. So what they're going to do for us now is they're going to provide us with a pricing for this system for the whole mechanism to include the field piece and then separate from the field piece. So we'll have ability to look at the system in 2 different phases or 2 different price points. So when I get that, I'll share it with you more than likely at the next meeting, but more than likely with the committee members first before we bring it to the full board meeting. But again, the main thing here is we've had enough information exchanged between the 2 of us so far that we should be getting some type of pricing quote within the next 10 to 14 days.
William, did we finish the data requirements, data dependency mapping piece they were talking about, where we were somewhat still a little bit vague on DMV handoff versus our system, and all that's been done, so they pretty much know now what they need to do?
Yes, we did most of that. Okay. There will still be some probably data discussions if we were to go into contract with them, but for the most part, they have a clear understanding of what's needed and where the connection points need to take place.
Okay.
Other questions, William? Sounds like there is some progress moving forward, so I know everyone appreciates that. Okay, William, the next issue, the 2-day dealer operator course, an update on that.
Okay, I'm gonna give a little bit of history on this one. This one first came before the board in the November 2020 meeting. And at that time, I brought it before the board mainly because we had businesses, at least one other business, asking for an opportunity to get in on the 2-day dealer operator course. So I brought it for the board at that meeting. During the board discussions, of course, Chairman Holcomb tasked myself and the AG representative to see what the board's authorities were, or what we can do, which we brought to the January meeting. Commissioner Holcomb was not available for that meeting, so I'm bringing it up now. The board's authority, because we are exempt from the Virginia Procurement Act, we can do this because the board also has the authority to put in place anything, I guess, to ensure the success of whatever requirements they put in place. So the dealer operator process was put in place by the board, and as such, the board had the ability to put the class requirements in place to ensure that those who are dealer operators meet the specified requirements. So that's why the board has authority to do so. Now, since then, since January's meeting, we have the current provider, VIADA, is required to notify the board at least 3 or 4 months in advance of their intent to renew their contract, and they have done so. We received that notification on March the 2nd, and as such, we as the board have 14 days to respond to their request to renew the contract. So the situation right now is a little bit different than it was 2 meetings ago. So we have to make a decision today as far as the board to whether we're going to renew the contract, number one, and number two, if we do so, taking into consideration some of the things that COVID has brought about or COVID has shown us, this may be the time to look at renewing this contract, but with some amendments in place. And if that's what the board wants to do, I have some suggestions in terms of the amendments we have to make this contract going forward a little bit more flexible for the board and to give the board the ability to take action should the board deem it's necessary to do so.
William, it might be helpful if you go through those suggested amendments and then we'll generate the discussion.
Okay. All right, John, work with me on the display here. Give me just a minute here.
He's working on it.
Okay.
One of the NDDD, to the NDDD. Okay, one of those.
Okay, can you guys see my screen? I don't think you can. Well, if not, John, I can hear you. Okay.
It is.
John, I can talk to it. I can talk through it.
Here we go.
Okay. John, let's go back. I'll try to talk through it. We'll get it another time. I don't see the presenter.
I just did the, hang on, sorry about that. Give me 1 second.
And I thank everybody for their patience here. We're almost. Well, I'm gonna go ahead and start talking through it. Okay, in the contract itself, under the specifics, course specifics, there's a portion there that we had signed off with the BIADA in 2018 that says the parties each agree to work exclusively with each other to deliver the course as outlined in the code section 46.2-1511 of the Virginia Code. And I think one of the things that we have learned through COVID is that with this language in place, that everything we would have had to do, we would have had to do through VIADA, which is not a bad thing. But if VIADA was not able to do what was needed, then we would have been hamstrung by the contract that we have in place with them to get what we needed. And all my amended recommendation is right now is just to remove the word exclusively. Otherwise, the contract as it is fine. Yes. Okay, excuse me. What you got?
You should be able to. It should be able to. Okay.
Don't worry. Okay, so that's one suggestion for the amendment. Number two, under the term under number two, under D2, it says the parties each agree that the minimum enrollment for each scheduled course shall be 10 attendees and the maximum enrollment should not exceed 40. Well, we had a couple classes that were only 9 participants, but that was not the fault of VIADA. That's because the governor's requirements were that at one point you could not have more than 10 people in a meeting, in a setting, in an indoor meeting. So VIADA held the class twice with 9 participants, and the 10th person was the instructor. And I guess using some common sense, we did not have a problem with that because the intent was there. They were following the rules as they were, and they made it work with the conditions that were given. But my point here, though, is if we change this, if we're going to amend the contract, then I would amend this section also to reflect the language to give them the flexibility so that if we do this again, that we'll be in compliance with the contract. And the third item would be in D3, which speaks to the fact that the 2-day course should not be presented fewer than 12 times per year or no more than 24 times per year. Again, with the pandemic in place, because of the smaller class size, they had to do it. The possibilities exist to do it more frequently, but also because of the shutdown in the beginning, it also could have limited the number of times that they could have taught the class. So again, with the pandemic in mind, we would amend the contract to put language there that will reflect such, so if it did happen to be less than 12 times or more than 24 times, they would not be penalized for that or be considered a breach of the contract. So those are the things I think if we renew the contract for 2 years with the amendments, these are things that we're looking at just changing. In the first part, just removing the word exclusively. And then the second part, adding language, putting language in place that will reflect the class size and the frequency based off of COVID type of conditions or conditions beyond their control, or as designated by the governor in his executive orders. And I guess the last thing, while we're here and looking at the contract, there's a piece there that may be looked at by the board, which deals with the pricing mechanism. I have no suggestions for the pricing mechanism, but if we're going to amend the contract, this would be the time to look at the pricing portion of it as well. And for the committee and for the board to look at, this has to be done within 14 days of the notification we got from them. So this has to be done by the 16th of this month, or I would think at least have the agreement in place with them of what we agreed to do before then, and then just finalize it at a later time and date. But those are the amendments that I had in mind, I guess, that we probably should do if we're going to amend the contract, to update it and to bring it in time, in line with the times.
Okay, at this point, any questions of either William or council on the suggested amendments? And then we're going to open it up for general discussion. I also see that I'm sure we've got a couple of folks who want to, non-board members who want to speak to this matter as well. So questions of either William or Christian on the suggested amendments to the contract, if in fact that's the way that the board wants to go?
Yeah, this is Andrew. I guess my question is on the first one, William, the exclusive, changing that language. I mean, what exactly is the impact of doing that? Does that mean that the board can add other vendors during the contract? Does that, what does that mean to the relationship with the board and the VIADA in terms of teaching this class?
Thank you for the question. It's a very good question. Yes and no. I think for the most part, removing that word does give the board the ability, if another contractor is needed for some other part, which could be unforeseen right now, they will have the ability to do so. But right now, the way the contract reads, anything dealing with the 2-day deal, anything dealing with the 2-day deal operator course, or anything that would support that will come from VIADA. And here the main concern is, if they don't have the ability to do it, then the board will not be able to get it done. So we just want to make sure, or my thought is that if the word exclusive is removed there, the board has much more flexibility to address whatever needs they need to address when the time comes.
Thanks.
I've got a question. So if the board or if the VIDA was not able to perform the class, wouldn't they be in breach of contract, which would give you other remedies as well, William?
Yes, that would be the case, but I don't think that's going to be the case that we're looking at. I'm just looking at it from a flexibility perspective. I mean, if we amended the contract and removed the word, the VIDA will have the contract for the next 2 years. But I think, again, because of what we just went through with COVID, there are some situations that came up that VIDA did a great job. They responded fabulously to all our requests and all of our needs. But I go back again just to the fact that that word ties us to them and gives the board, it makes the board, they don't have the flexibility to do what we need to do in case it's needed. Now, this is not suggested because others are trying to get into the business. This was looked at only from a perspective of if they're unable to do something, or this with the class, that we have the ability to, as the board, to come up with something or to do something. Because the VIDA, as far as the classroom portion of it, the 2-day classroom portion of it, they are delivering on that. They're doing a great job with that. But another thing for the board to look at also is that at one point for a 2-month period, we couldn't do anything. So is this a chance to look at something remotely? I don't know. I just want to put it out there so that if it happens again, that we can show that we either learn the lessons from this go around, or if questioned and the board decide to keep the status quo, I can say that the board discussed this matter and felt that this is the best avenue for us based off of our last experience and these things that we put in place to bring us up to speed once conditions are more favorable.
Other
All right,
questions?
thank you, William.
Okay, I see that the VIADA, Alvin Melendez. Alvin, anything that you want to speak to?
Thank you, Mr. Commissioner Holcomb. I don't know if you're aware, but VIADA has relocated the offices to Richmond. We have moved to Midlothian, Virginia, as well as we have built a conference center big enough to host 40 students at a time with appropriate measures of separation from each other. As well as we have 4 85-inch plasma TVs. In case that something was to happen with COVID again, we will be able to do these classes in Zoom and send our instructors or bring them here on one-on-one basis to come in and do testing at a different date. So we are ready for any measure come to us, whether it is with COVID related or something that we might have to do something. And this is something I have to discuss, obviously, with William Childress and the board. If this was to happen in the future, how will we go about it? But I have it all implemented where we can go ahead and do a Zoom meeting and bring them here for testing in different at a different date after their class has been taught, and they can, or if they're handicapped, we can go to them. Also, this building is handicap accessible, and it also has an elevator to come to the second floor where the conference center is as well. It has over 100 parking spaces outside that are free of charge. So we'll be able to host and do many things here, as well as if something was to happen with the licenses, with the DMV, we'll be more than glad to allow you to use this room for licensing at free of charge as well. And this is completely separated from the VIADA offices. This is upstairs, which will allow your employees to come in and host an event to do licenses in one day or a couple of days a month. And so we'll be available for you with that regards.
Okay, any questions of Mr. Melendez? Certainly, Alvin, when things get better, I'd love to see your new facility. So we'll hope for better days, and maybe Chris will talk you into hosting the dealer board meeting there. It sounds like a very large area. I see. I think it's Jay. I know we have another speaker. I see your bicycle in the background. Let me recognize you at this point.
Thank you, Commissioner Holcomb. JTZ Enterprise is the third online recertification provider. The recertification course is a 6-hour course, and by all standards, we've knocked it out of the park. We are a leader in the internet continuing education needs for the motor vehicle dealer board, and quite frankly, with the advent of COVID, that's really the next step with this course. I think the course has served a tremendous need. It educates the new consumer. It helps with licensing issues when they come up down the road. I don't know that Zoom is like your total answer. Our company is provided or willing to provide a classroom environment, similar to what you have now, as well as help explore an internet or online solution. All things the same, having multiple providers only better serves your industry. Hopefully, as we all would like to see, we can get back into a classroom environment. We can get back to room 702. Those chairs are quite comfortable. But having two providers offers more coverage of the state. I think VIADA has a fantastic building there in the Midlothian area, and they'd obviously be able to hold down the fort, so to speak, in the Richmond area. But the state itself is almost 400 miles wide, almost 200 miles tall, and having two providers help cover that area would offer more diversity. And with that diversity, it comes a cost. I think Executive Director Childress has talked or touched a little bit about the cost itself, but when there's only one provider, there's no competition. And for many of you, you may never take that course, but for the guy or gal that's trying to get into the business, cost coming up with $400 or $500 on a maybe. We don't even most of the time they don't have a location. They don't really have a business plan. Having two providers provides that competition. There are a number of concerns about an online, and rightfully so. An online solution, the biggest concern I keep hearing is, how do you confirm that you got the right guy or gal in front of you? And to that argument, I'd say today you passed out a couple of fines. You came pretty close to suspending or even terminating a young lady's license, and you were about to do it all on Zoom. I would assume we were talking to the right people, and the right people were participating in that conversation. We have a number of ways we can help address that concern, and would welcome the opportunity to work with the board. I am proud of the relationship I've built with the staff at the Motor Vehicle Dealer Board. I have partnered with a couple of people that, quite frankly, you may know. One most notably would be Pete. Pete Irici was part of the original course curriculum. We're prepared to help service your industry and further along your continuing your initial education course. I thank you for the opportunity to speak, Commissioner Holcomb.
And just a question maybe for both entities. Is any consideration being given to offering these courses in languages other than just English? I know the last census showed our Spanish folks being about 7.7% of our total population. Everything else is less than 1%, but just a question whether either entity is considering you offering it in languages other than just English. JTC, you're shaking your head yes.
Mr. Commissioner, I've been teaching the class now for probably 9 months, and what a great opportunity it is to speak into the lives of people who have a dream of being a car dealer, or even new car dealers that are getting a license in Virginia coming from other states. We have had Spanish-speaking individuals come to the class, and we have not had any issues where there was a communication barrier where they couldn't understand or they didn't pass because they couldn't understand. I haven't run into that yet. You know, I don't know if those individuals like Abraham that we spoke to earlier with Ms. Bruce might be a little bit leery of coming to a class if they don't speak English. I guess we can cross that bridge when we come to it, but right now we haven't had any barriers that we couldn't get through and get people passed and get them all the way to taking the test at the DMV.
Okay, Chris, thank you.
Yes,
JTC.
I'm sorry, sir.
No, go ahead. I was just recognizing you.
Thank you. With an online environment, we can definitely address not only Spanish, but other communications as well. We also have the manpower, the people power to help address at least the Spanish speaking course takers. The there's a lot of other languages out there, and quite frankly, with the idea of an online environment, we could address just about any language you throw at us. We intend to provide, regardless of whether we go with a classroom environment or hybrid. We have a number of great ideas with regards to online solutions, whether it be a hybrid or a full online solution. We plan to provide a course curriculum in a fully digital format, and with that, we'd be able to convert or translate that curriculum to any language on the fly.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Melendez, anything you'd want to add?
Yes. And I'll address the full board and Mr. Commissioner on this. Our current instructors and when we had Pete, we only had one instructor. When Pete exited, hired two instructors for VIADA to offer better service to our dealers. The idea of having an in-person is the impact that we make on the new dealers coming in. The new dealers coming in, the majority of them have never been a dealer before. When you do something online, they're not going to learn on the one-on-one basis or get the answers and information that they have when they come to these classes. These classes, when you have an instructor teaching, you have half the class asking questions when you have another instructor going from desk to desk answering those questions to this gentleman. Our instructors have been in the independent dealers. One of them is a current independent dealer with over 25 years experience, currently serving in the motor vehicle dealer board, highly qualified, independent dealer, buy here, pay here dealer, highly in collections. He's aware of everything going on. The second instructor also was an independent dealer, was an underwriter, working for banking system, working for floor plan companies. Again, highly, it has all the qualifications to also teach this class. And these are people that have either are in business or very, very recently in the business. The questions that we get asked on a day-to-day on those dealer operator classes are questions that must be answered on face-to-face. And when you have an online course, to me, we're not there yet. The online course is something that we must do if something was to happen that doesn't permit us from doing the course on a face-to-face. But the instructors we have right now are extremely qualified to teach this course, and I would love to continue to teach this course on the face-to-face other than online. Online will be, in something was to happen or a dramatic case, then we'll go to that point.
Okay, thank you. Christian, can you help answer a question? William was talking about a 14-day time period that the board needs to act. Can you explain that to me?
Yeah, I just
the contract.
Yeah, it appears that the contract has language in it, and I think my understanding is this contract's been on a rolling over every 2 years. It's a 2-year contract with an automatic renewal. So I think there's 120 days. I don't have the contract right in front of me, but from my recollection, there's 120 days for VIADA to let the board know that they would like to renew the contract, an automatic renewal, and then the board has 14 days to respond. And I think that is, I think from your question, that is in the contract. That's in the language of the contract. I mean, this, and I haven't talked to William about this piece of it. I know that he's asking up for amendments. That 14 days, to me, given the spacing of just thinking about it and hearing everybody speak this morning, and the board only meeting every other month, it doesn't really give William that opportunity to really, this was kind of a fast turnaround, because I think VIADA did what they were exactly supposed to do the 120 days beforehand, and they gave notice in early March, I think the 2nd. And just luckily, we have a board meeting on the 8th for him to bring this to your attention. So maybe that 14-day is another amendment just to extend it out. You don't want to make it huge because VIADA deserves a right to know, relatively quickly, but maybe 30 days as opposed so that it just is a little longer period to decide. I think my understanding from what William's asking though this morning, and I know that we've entertained to hear other things, and I think that's all great, and everybody's made their point. VIADA's made some points. JTZ's made some points as to how they do online, and I think that's all great, but I don't think that's 100% of what really William's looking for right now, because that's not what needs to be entertained in the contract. The contract is just whether the board wants to keep this relationship with VIADA, which everything Williams told me they're doing a great job. So, and that's not for me to get into at all, but that's what the contract says, right? And then we have this 14-day kind of squeeze period to say, do we want to renew this contract? And certainly that can be done, and with amendments saying, yes, we would like to renew, but we want some amendments. And then I think that's what Williams asking that permission, so that then he can work with VIADA to say, these are the few amendments we were thinking of, and work through that in the next 120 days, essentially. I think the contract automatically renews, correct me, William, if I'm wrong, but June 30th, I think, of this year.
Yes, it's July 1st is the start of the new contract. Right.
Okay.
Richard, that was helpful. Thank you. So I guess where we are is there a desire to continue with this current relationship with some negotiated modifications to the contract, or is there desire to open this up to others to compete?
This is Andrew. I guess I'd make a couple of comments, and then maybe I can make a motion if we want. But the couple of comments would be, and in full disclosure, I'm president of the VIADA. I am a dealer, but I do serve on the board of directors for the VIADA. In deference to John, I'm also a client of JTZ, so I'm getting it from both sides there. But my comment in general about opening it up is that certainly something the board can look at in the future, but things to consider. There's a lot that goes into the curriculum, a lot of expenses involved, a lot of commitments. I get John's point about choice is a good thing, and as business people, we all believe in that. But at the same time, to invest in the curriculum that that the motor vehicle dealer board has to approve, and then you've got two vendors you've got to worry about. You're teaching different things at different classes. You've got different instructors with different things getting covered. It gets harder for the motor vehicle dealer board also to track the effectiveness, because, well, which class did they go to? Which vendor did they use? That sort of thing. I think when it comes to this immediate decision, I would love to make a motion just to give William the authority to renegotiate the contract on behalf of the board.
Okay, there's a motion on the table. Is there a second to that motion?
I'll second that.
Okay, Don Sullivan, was that you seconding it, Don?
Yes, sir, Mr. Commissioner.
Okay. Okay, discussion.
I think it's probably realistic. I think William will handle it on our behalf in the correct way.
Okay. And certainly, Andrew, when we say William and staff to include our legal advisor, because I'd like Christian involved in it. And I think, Christian, you make a good point about another area that might need some tinkering with. The 14 days seems really unusually tight. And look, I know this is primarily a independent dealer issue, but are there any franchise dealers who have any comments one way or the other?
Commissioner, my only comment would be, given a choice, I'd like to see the classroom setting continue to the best of our ability. I have two young adults in NADA training right now, and they're doing it remotely because they can't get together as a class, and it's not at all the same. It's really difficult for people to learn remotely. And if the difference in cost isn't really there, we're not looking at savings. I will tell you from a service perspective that VIADA has been a big help to the dealer board on both this and every other issue we've come up with, to include salesperson licensing.
Okay, Ms. Cody, I appreciate those comments. Any other discussion? Okay, we have a motion that's been duly seconded, and I would ask the clerk to call the vote.
Ted Bailey,
Aye.
Dan Bannister,
Aye.
Michael, Gardner Britt,
Aye.
David Duncan,
Aye.
Steve Farmer,
Aye.
Bob Fisher,
Aye.
Randy Harris,
Aye.
Ron Cody,
Aye.
Chris Mayer,
Aye.
Jeff Malloy,
Aye.
Mark Riblett,
Aye.
Senior Sagafi,
Aye.
Maurice Slaughter, Don Sullivan,
Aye.
Andrew Wiley,
Aye.
Rick Holcomb.
Aye. Motion carries.
Motion carried.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. So, William, you and Christian are authorized to move forward to negotiate a renewal of the contract with those areas that we discussed being attended to.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, at this point, obviously, we'll talk a little bit about the General Assembly session. It was very unique. Everyone talks about the challenges that come with remote. As you may know, the House of Delegates was completely remote, and everyone was home, and they were Zooming in for meetings and floor actions. The Senate actually did meet in person over at the Science Center next door to us. And I would tell you, it was challenging. It was certainly challenging to be able to be in the room, the Zoom room, when discussions were being held on a bill. But I think we've all made it through. I see Ann, who is a tremendous asset to the franchise dealers and making sure that their positions are always well heard and understand. So, Ann, why don't you give us your perspective, and particularly attention to any bills that you think might impact the dealer community?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman, and Gambardella for the Virginia Auto Dealers Association. You are correct. It was a challenging environment, to say the least. 2 minutes aside, and they decide who they let in the room to speak for 20 seconds is a kind of awful way to legislate. So much of what goes on down there is very organic, and people mixing in the hallways and the elevators, and just sort of none of that happened. So, but we've made it through. So far, the sky has not fallen. Don't expect that it will. We were obviously very involved in the issue of electric vehicles this session. Transportation electrification was sort of at the forefront of a lot of the environmental activity at the General Assembly. We were in support of the package of bills that will ensure the demand for electric vehicles is supported by state action. We were we were very disappointed that the electric vehicle rebate bill that would provide a rebate for new and used electric vehicles was not funded at this point in the budget. We still hope that there may be some ability to at least stand up the program, so that if federal funds or a new state revenue source is identified, that program will be up and ready to go and provide some additional incentives for electric vehicle purchases. There'll be ongoing work over the interim on infrastructure electrification. So that will obviously will impact the vehicles that dealers are selling, and then also adoption of the mandates on electric vehicles out of California for new vehicles. So that will kick in the 2025 model year. So those things, while they don't directly impact the Motor Vehicle Dealer Board, were very critical to the new car dealers during this session. The one bill that did impact the dealer board that was discussed by the board at their last meeting governing test drives in residential areas, that bill was amended pretty significantly. We were very grateful to Delegate Rome, who we worked with along with the mayor of the city of Manassas Park and their city attorney to come up with a bill that would allow a locality to adopt an ordinance that would require dealers to give notice about certain areas that may be off limits for test drives. It's permissive. It doesn't require a locality to do this. The locality would have to identify a enhanced enforcement zone, enhanced speed zone, in which case the dealership would then have to provide sort of a standard disclosure that you can't go in that area to do a test drive. If a customer is in that area, gets pulled over for something else, the dealer board may investigate whether they were giving that disclosure. So, and then that could be a violation. So it was significantly narrowed from the bill that we discussed in January at the meeting. And we were, like I said, very grateful that Delegate Rome chose to make some changes that make it very palatable to us as new car dealers know very well. I mean, they've worked for years to try to avoid any sort of impact on their neighbors for lots of reasons, and certainly test drives through neighborhoods is not high on the list of priorities. We wanted to make sure though that there was not some sort of incentive to pull over anybody driving on a D-tag. That we feel has been addressed and should not be an impact. And I think William would agree that it's likely to have very little impact on the board as far as an enforcement mechanism as well. So it wasn't an overwhelming burden on the dealer board staff either. And those were sort of the big issues for us.
Great. And we had one bill that just mainly codified our current practice on dealing with foreign dealers on older vehicles, and we appreciate VADA's support on that. We also were able to continue the current practice on salvage for one more year, and we'll reserve time to fight that come next session. And again, appreciate the VADA's support on that.
And we appreciate the opportunity to address salvage again.
Yes, that's certainly one of my favorite subjects. And anything else?
No, that was all that we had sort of on our plate. Big items. Obviously, there were lots of other items that may impact businesses generally, but and then lots of interesting progressive social issues for people to see their legislature in action, but nothing that impacts the industry.
Good. Mr. Melendez, anything that you'd want to add from the VIADA standpoint, dealing with the General Assembly?
Again, with that bill with Delegate Rome, VIADA, we appreciate, VIADA's involvement and rewriting that. We still didn't figure that covered all the bases. We were not in favor of that bill. To us, we feel that it's kind of discriminatory to a certain agency, being the car business and we don't feel it's right. I feel it's totally discriminatory. And I have seen in the past, that Manassas doing similar things, like a couple of years back with the Spanish, with the driver's licenses. And they were stopping everybody when they were not supposed to stop. And then what happened in Manassas was that then nobody showed up for work. No Spanish people wanted to drive through to Manassas because enforcement and law is different. Law, they go ahead and create a law that they think is going to go that way, but then law enforcement enforce it in a different way. Unfortunately, it's not done the same way. And that created a catastrophe in Manassas back then, where then they have to pass a different bill to make sure that didn't happen, because they were all being, as soon as they saw someone that resembled Spanish in a car, they were stopping the car and calling INS, and it just became a big problem. I see the same problem here. I think if Manassas has a problem with people driving fast through their county, they're going to realize that maybe 1% or 2% are actual car dealers. if they have a problem with enforcement, they should put a traffic camera, and they're going to realize that. I think they're going too far with this bill, but that was just, our point of view on this certain bill.
Okay, thank you. Any questions or further comments about this last session of the General Assembly? Okay, any other old business from the floor? William, I think we're down to your executive director report, and then we can set the full board meeting for May.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. And I do not have a report for you guys this time. Nothing that needs to be come up. Everything that I want to talk about, we discussed during the regular board meeting. So I thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Any other comments? And so, William, our May board meeting is for what date?
May 10th.
May 10th. Okay, folks, I appreciate it. I think we've had a productive meeting today. And so look forward to seeing everyone in May, most likely virtually, but we'll see what things look like. Let me tell you, and I can say this because I think it's accurate. A lot of the folks on this board meeting have the same color hair that I do. So that hopefully that means that you're over 65 years old and are in line to get the vaccine. I'm getting mine tomorrow at 8:15 from my doctor's office. So, if you get called, go get your shot. I don't care what kind of shot it is, just get it, because let's hope that we all get to the point that we can be back in the same room together for a while. So please have a great week, and we'll see you either virtually or in person in May. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, Mr. Commissioner.
Have a great day, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.